Alien princess fights to stay collected while meeting a human soldier. The alien princess Lyra stood in the tall hall of her palace, her hands resting lightly on the edge of the balcony. From here, she could see the landing platform where the human shuttle was supposed to arrive. Her heart beat faster than usual, but she straightened her back and lifted her chin. She had been trained all her life to remain calm and collected, no matter the situation. She was a princess, and her people depended on her. They depended on her to show strength, wisdom, and courage. Yet today was different. Today she was going to meet a human soldier, the first human soldier to visit her world. She had read reports about humans. They were strong, brave, and stubborn. They could be reckless and unpredictable. They fought fiercely, and they cared deeply for their families and friends. Lyra had always admired their courage from afar, but meeting one in person was something she had never imagined. The shuttle's engines hummed faintly in the distance. Lyra turned her head toward her attendants, two aides who stood silently behind her. Their faces were calm, but she knew they were curious just as she was. "It will be here soon," she said softly. Her voice did not shake, but inside, her stomach twisted in a strange way she could not name. The shuttle's doors opened, and a human stepped out. He was tall but not overly so, with a strong build that spoke of discipline and training. His uniform was simple, unlike the fancy robes and decorations her people wore. His movements were steady and careful. He did not rush. He did not fidget. His eyes were bright and alert, scanning the area, but they quickly fixed on Lyra. She felt her chest tighten. The human's gaze was direct, steady, and calm. There was something in the way he held himself that made her feel both cautious and intrigued. She had expected a human to be loud, to talk too much, to make mistakes. But this one was quiet, confident, and careful. The human soldier walked forward slowly, each step measured and sure. Lyra could hear the soft click of his boots against the platform. He stopped at a respectful distance. "Princess Lyra," he said in a voice that was low and even, "I am Alex. It is an honor to meet you." Lyra felt a small shiver run down her spine. She forced herself to remain calm. "Welcome, Alex," she said. Her tone was soft, polite, and controlled. "I am glad you have come safely. Please follow me into the palace. We have much to discuss." Alex nodded slightly, and then he began walking toward the palace doors. Lyra followed, keeping her posture perfect. Every step she took was careful. Every movement was measured. She could feel the eyes of her court on her. Everyone was watching. Everyone was waiting to see how she would react. And she could not show fear, not even a little. She had to be strong. She had to be the princess her people expected her to be. As they walked through the grand hall, Lyra observed Alex. He seemed calm, almost relaxed, but she could see the way his eyes moved, noticing details. He noticed the patterns on the floor, the decorations on the walls, the subtle movements of the palace guards. He was alert, aware of everything, yet he did not appear nervous. That steadiness impressed her. "Your palace is beautiful," Alex said quietly. His voice had a hint of wonder, but it was controlled. He did not overstate anything. "It is clear that your people take great pride in their home." Lyra's lips curved slightly. "Yes," she said. "Our people value beauty and order. It helps us stay united and strong." She paused. "But it is not only the palace that is important. It is the people who live here, their loyalty, their wisdom, their courage. That is what makes us strong." Alex nodded slowly as if understanding. "I see," he said. "Strength comes from people, not just walls or decorations." Lyra glanced at him, surprised. Most humans she had read about were proud, sometimes even arrogant. They liked to boast, but Alex was different. He was thoughtful and respectful. He listened. He considered before speaking. That made her heart beat a little faster, though she hated to admit it, even to herself. They reached a smaller chamber where the meeting would take place. Lyra motioned for Alex to sit, but he remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back. "I can sit if you wish," he said politely. "No," Lyra replied firmly but kindly. We will stand. It is better to meet as equals in this moment." Alex smiled faintly, and she noticed that even his smile was calm, controlled, and respectful. He had manners, yet they were not forced. He was genuine. Lyra studied him carefully. She wondered what it would be like to know more about humans. She wondered what it was like to be one of them, to feel their courage, their fears, their hopes. "Your journey here was long," Lyra said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I hope it was not too difficult." Alex shook his head. "It was challenging, yes," he admitted. "But I am trained for long journeys, and I wanted to meet you. That makes every step worth it." Lyra felt a strange warmth at his words. She had expected a soldier to speak only of duty, strategy, or mission. She had not expected him to speak of respect and personal purpose. Somehow that made him seem human. She had always thought humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and emotional. But standing here with Alex, she saw a different side. One that was calm, careful, and thoughtful. Still, she reminded herself she was a princess. She could not let her curiosity show too clearly. She could not let her nervousness appear. Every gesture, every word, every glance had to show strength. She took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. "Alex," she said, "you are far from your home. What do you hope to achieve by coming here?" Alex looked at her seriously. "I am here to learn about your people," he said, "to understand your ways, to see if we can work together. Humans and your people have been distant for a long time. I want to change that. I want to make peace and build trust." Lyra studied him for a moment. His words were simple, but they carried weight. She could see sincerity in his eyes. There was no trick, no false words, just honesty. That honesty made her pulse quicken. She realized that humans could be brave not just in battle but in their hearts. To come here, alone, to meet a stranger, to offer peace, that was courage she had never measured before. A quiet alarm sounded in the distance. Lyra flinched slightly, but she forced herself to remain calm. Alex's eyes flicked toward the source of the sound, and he did not panic. He moved with purpose, as if already knowing what to do. Lyra noticed his instinctive discipline, the way he assessed the situation without fear. The alarm was minor, just a routine alert from the palace defenses, but the way Alex reacted impressed her. He was ready. He was alert. He was calm under pressure. She realized that humans, despite their emotional nature, had a strength that her people admired. Not only strength of body, but strength of mind. "Do not be afraid," Alex said gently, noticing her brief moment of tension. "Everything is under control." Lyra felt her heartbeat slow slightly. His words were simple, yet they carried reassurance. She had expected fear for herself or for her people, but standing next to him, she felt steadiness. She felt a small part of her curiosity grow into something she could not name. "Your confidence is surprising," she admitted. "Most visitors would be frightened by our alarms, by our palace defenses, yet you remain calm." Alex tilted his head slightly. "Fear is natural," he said, "but letting fear control you is not useful. I respect your people. I respect you. I must remain steady for both our sakes." Lyra nodded, impressed. She realized that humans had a kind of discipline that her own people sometimes lacked. Discipline combined with courage. She could see it in his posture, his eyes, his calm movements. She could see that humans could be dangerous, yes, but also honorable. For the rest of the meeting, Lyra focused on keeping her composure. She asked questions about his home, about his experiences, and about why humans fought so fiercely. Alex answered each question carefully, honestly, and respectfully. He spoke of his family, his training, his hopes, and his fears. He did not boast. He did not lie. He spoke simply, and yet his words carried meaning. By the time the sun began to set on the horizon outside the palace, Lyra felt a strange mixture of relief and fascination. She had maintained her composure. She had not faltered in front of her court. Yet inside, something had shifted. Something about humans, about Alex, had changed her view. She had seen courage, honor, and kindness all in one being. She had seen that humans were not only warriors, but also people who could inspire trust, admiration, and perhaps even friendship. As the first meeting drew to a close, Lyra took a deep breath and stood taller. She had learned much in these few hours, and she knew, deep inside, that meeting Alex was only the beginning. There was more to learn, more to see, and more to feel. But for now, she allowed herself a quiet moment of reflection. She had met a human soldier and she had stayed collected. That was her duty. But she also felt curiosity, respect, and a small spark of fascination she could not hide. And for the first time, Lyra wondered what it would be like to truly know a human, not as a soldier, not as a stranger, but as a person. After the first meeting, Lyra returned to her private chambers. The room was quiet, filled only with soft lights and the faint hum of the palace's energy systems. She closed the door and leaned against it for a moment, letting herself exhale. Her hands trembled slightly, though she quickly hid it. She was a princess. She could not show weakness, but inside she felt a storm of thoughts and feelings she could not control. Alex had left her palace with the same calm, steady manner he had shown when he arrived. Yet the impact of his presence stayed with her. His words, his eyes, his quiet courage, they lingered in her mind. She had studied humans all her life through reports and stories, but nothing compared to meeting one in person. He was not the loud, reckless fighter she had imagined. He was disciplined, careful, and surprisingly thoughtful. Her attendants entered the room quietly. One of them, a young woman named Sira, spoke softly. "Princess, are you all right? You seem different than before." Lyra shook her head slightly and forced a small smile. "I am fine, Sira. I am simply reflecting. There is much to consider." Sira nodded but did not press further. She knew better than to question the princess too deeply. Lyra walked to a large window overlooking the city. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple as the sun sank below the horizon. The city's lights began to glow softly, and the distant hum of vehicles and airships filled the air. Lyra's mind, however, was elsewhere. She thought about Alex. She tried to focus on what she had learned about humans before he arrived, but her thoughts kept drifting back to him. How could a human be so calm and composed in a place filled with so much grandeur and caution? How could he meet a princess of an alien world and still remain steady, respectful, and honest? Lyra reminded herself sharply that she must maintain her royal composure. Curiosity was one thing, fascination was another. She could not allow herself to be distracted by a visitor, no matter how unusual he seemed. Yet, she could not ignore the feeling of respect she had developed for him. That respect was growing slowly, in a way she could not control. The next day, Lyra had another meeting scheduled. This time, it was less formal, designed for them to talk about their people and culture. She entered the meeting room and found Alex already waiting. He stood near the window, looking out at the city below. His posture was relaxed but attentive, as if he was observing everything yet ready for anything. "Good morning, Princess," Alex said, turning to her. "I hope you slept well." "I did," Lyra replied carefully. She kept her voice steady. "And you?" "Rested," he said with a small smile. "Travel is tiring, but I am trained for it." Lyra studied him for a moment. His smile was brief, yet it seemed genuine. She realized that humans expressed emotions in small ways, unlike her people, who often displayed them openly. That was another difference she had to understand. They began walking slowly around the room, talking quietly. Lyra asked about his home, his family, and the training he had received. Alex answered each question with honesty, speaking simply but with depth. He described the struggles and joys of life on Earth, the ways humans built trust and loyalty, and the courage required to face danger. As he spoke, Lyra noticed the way he paused before choosing his words. He did not rush. He did not speak carelessly. That careful thought made his words feel heavier, more meaningful. She realized that humans were not only brave physically, but also brave in their hearts. To speak honestly about one's fears and hopes required courage, and Alex had it in abundance. Lyra could feel herself relaxing slightly, though she forced herself to remain composed. Her hands did not tremble. Her voice did not falter. Yet, inside, a small part of her felt a strange connection forming. She did not understand it fully, but it was there. A curiosity, a respect, and perhaps a hint of admiration. She told herself it was natural to feel this when meeting someone from another world. The conversation moved to more serious matters. Lyra asked about human strategies, how they managed conflicts, and how they made decisions during crises. Alex explained carefully, using simple examples and analogies. He spoke of teamwork, trust, and the importance of knowing the people around you. Lyra listened closely. She realized that humans had a way of combining caution with action, thought with courage. It was a balance her own people sometimes struggled to maintain. As the hours passed, Lyra found herself asking questions she had never thought to ask before. She wanted to understand not just Alex but his people. How did they survive? How did they trust each other? How did they face fear and uncertainty? Alex answered patiently, never judging her curiosity, never rushing her. He treated her as an equal, even though he knew she was a princess of an alien world. At one point, Alex spoke of his first battle experience. Lyra listened carefully, noting the honesty in his voice. He did not exaggerate. He did not boast. He described fear, pain, and loss with quiet clarity. Yet he also spoke of hope, courage, and loyalty. Lyra felt a strange emotion rise within her. It was respect, yes, but also admiration. She realized that humans carried strength not only in their bodies but also in their hearts. A small alarm sounded again, signaling a routine check of the palace defenses. Lyra's eyes flicked to the source, and she felt a brief tension rise in her chest. She expected Alex to be startled, to hesitate, but he remained calm. His hand moved slightly, ready to react if needed, but his expression stayed steady. Lyra felt a flicker of surprise. How could one human remain so composed in a foreign palace with alarms ringing? She had expected fear, yet he showed none. "You seem prepared for anything," she said quietly. Alex turned his eyes to hers. "I try to be," he replied simply. "But I am not fearless. I just do not let fear control me." Lyra nodded slowly. She thought about her own people. They were disciplined, yes, but often pride and tradition made them hesitant to act. Humans, she realized, could be brave in ways her people had not learned. To remain calm, to act with honesty and courage, even in unknown situations, that was something she had never fully seen before. Hours passed as they continued talking. They discussed customs, strategies, emotions, and values. Lyra found herself listening more than speaking, observing Alex's gestures, his calm tone, his steady gaze. She realized that she was learning not just about humans, but about a new way to face the world, one where courage and thought went hand in hand. When the meeting finally ended, Lyra walked Alex to the palace doors. She noticed that her chest felt lighter, her mind clearer, yet a strange tension lingered. She had maintained her composure, yes, but she also knew that meeting him had changed something inside her. Curiosity had grown into respect. Respect had grown into admiration, and she could not deny that a small spark of something more had formed. "Thank you for your time, Alex," she said softly. "Your presence here has been enlightening." Alex bowed his head slightly. "The honor is mine, Princess," he said. "Your people are remarkable and you more than I expected. Thank you for sharing your world with me." Lyra smiled faintly. She kept her posture perfect, her voice steady, but inside her mind raced. She had learned so much about humans in these few hours. She had seen courage, discipline, honesty, and respect. She had seen that humans could be brave in ways her people could admire. And she had seen a human who could inspire curiosity, admiration, and perhaps friendship. As Alex left the palace, Lyra returned to her chambers. She sat quietly thinking. She realized that her feelings were complicated. She was a princess, trained to remain composed and strong. She could not let fascination or admiration weaken her. Yet she also knew that humans, and Alex in particular, had shown her a strength that her people rarely saw. It was a strength of heart and mind, courage and honesty combined. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. She thought of the stories she had read, the reports she had studied, the lessons she had learned. Nothing had prepared her for this. Nothing had shown her the depth of human courage and honesty. She realized that humans were not only warriors, but also thinkers, dreamers, and friends. And most of all, she realized that meeting Alex had opened a door she had never imagined. A door to understanding, respect, and perhaps even trust between their worlds. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing clearly. She wanted to learn more. She wanted to see more. She wanted to understand humans not as enemies or strangers, but as people. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt a small spark of hope. Hope that humans and her people could truly understand each other. Hope that courage, honesty, and respect could form bonds stronger than fear or pride. And hope that one human soldier, calm, disciplined, and honest, could change the way she saw the universe. As the night deepened and the palace lights dimmed, Lyra sat quietly, reflecting. She had maintained her composure. She had stayed collected. But inside, she knew that she had also begun to see a new world, one filled with courage, honesty, and respect. One where humans and aliens could meet not as strangers, but as equals. One where trust and friendship could grow from a simple meeting between a princess and a soldier. And for the first time, Lyra allowed herself to wonder. What would come next? The morning was quiet in the palace, but Lyra felt a strange tension in the air. She had been expecting Alex to return for another meeting, and while she had been curious and respectful before, today felt different. Something in her chest felt tight, a mixture of anticipation and nervousness she could not control. She straightened her robes, smoothed her hair, and walked toward the balcony to look at the landing platform. The sky was pale with early sunlight. The city below was still waking. Lyra could see the movement of palace guards, engineers, and couriers preparing for the day. She tried to focus on her duties, but her thoughts kept drifting to the human soldier. He had impressed her with his calmness, his honesty, and his respect. She had not expected to feel this way, not after only a few meetings. A soft hum reached her ears, growing louder by the second. The shuttle arrived quietly, almost as if it were floating rather than flying. Lyra watched as Alex stepped down. His uniform was neat, his boots making a soft sound on the metal platform. His posture was perfect and his expression calm, yet she noticed a subtle tension in his shoulders. He was ready for anything. "Good morning, Princess Lyra," he said as he approached. "I hope I am not interrupting anything important." "You are not," Lyra replied, keeping her tone steady. "I was looking forward to seeing you. Please come inside." Alex nodded and followed her through the palace corridors. Lyra noticed that he observed everything around him, the guards, the layout, the subtle signs of activity. He noticed small details, but he did not stare or ask too many questions. He moved with quiet confidence. That discipline impressed her. Humans were always described as emotional, but Alex was something different. They entered a large hall that overlooked the palace gardens. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows, making the room glow softly. Lyra gestured toward the center of the room. "We have space here to speak freely," she said. Alex nodded. "Thank you," he said. "I would like to learn more about your people today. And perhaps you could learn more about mine." Lyra smiled faintly. She had been thinking about humans all night. There were many things she still did not understand. Their courage, their honesty, their loyalty, all of it was fascinating. "I will try," she said. They began walking slowly through the hall, speaking quietly. Alex told her more about human training, their ways of learning to stay calm under pressure, and the importance of trust between soldiers. Lyra listened carefully, impressed by the depth of his thought. Humans were more than she had expected. They were not only strong but thoughtful. They were not only brave but wise. Suddenly, the palace alarm sounded. A sharp, urgent tone echoed through the halls. Lyra froze, her heart racing. The guards began moving quickly, their weapons raised, scanning the area. Lyra had expected small alarms before, routine checks, but this was different. It was urgent. Something was approaching. Alex did not flinch. He moved with quick, precise steps, assessing the situation. Lyra could see the calculation in his eyes. He was calm, ready, and focused. "Stay close to me," he said quietly, his voice steady but firm. "We will get through this." Lyra nodded, her own hands gripping the edges of her robes. She forced herself to stay composed. She was a princess. She could not show fear. Yet inside, her chest felt tight and her mind raced. What was coming? How dangerous was it? The guards led them to a secure observation room. From here, they could see the landing platform and the surrounding city. Lyra's eyes widened as she saw a small group of unknown ships approaching. They were dark, sleek, and moving quickly. The palace defenses began to respond, sending up shields and warning signals. Alex studied the ships carefully. "They are not part of the usual patrols," he said quietly. "We need to act fast." Lyra's mind raced. She had trained for many scenarios, but she had never faced anything like this. She had never seen an enemy approach her city with such speed and precision. She had expected diplomacy and calm meetings with humans. Now she faced danger. And yet, Alex remained calm. His presence gave her a small sense of stability. The unknown ships fired a warning beam toward the palace. It hit the shields and caused a ripple of energy to run across the surface. The guards tightened their formation, ready to defend. Lyra felt her stomach twist, but she forced herself to breathe evenly. She could not panic. She had to stay collected. Alex moved closer to the controls in the observation room. He began giving quiet instructions to the palace guards. His voice was calm but firm. "Focus on the shields, keep them steady, watch their movement, do not engage unless necessary." Lyra watched him closely. His orders were simple, clear, and effective. He did not shout, he did not panic. He assessed, planned, and acted. She realized that humans could be brave in ways her people had not imagined. Not reckless bravery, but thoughtful, precise courage. The first ship fired again. The palace shields shook under the impact, but they held. Alex moved closer to Lyra. "Stay behind me," he said. "I will make sure you are safe." She nodded, her heart pounding. She was used to being protected by her guards, but now she realized that Alex's presence was different. He was not just a soldier. He was a shield, a steady force she could rely on. She felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. Fear for the danger they faced, and admiration for the human who faced it so calmly. The ships hovered for a moment, scanning the palace. Alex studied their movements, noticing patterns. "They are testing our defenses," he said quietly. "They are looking for a weakness." Lyra felt a chill. She had trained for attacks before, but this felt real, immediate, and dangerous. She forced herself to keep calm, to observe, to learn. She realized that Alex's calmness was helping her control her own fear. She was learning from him, even in the middle of danger. The ships fired again, this time aiming at the walls surrounding the palace. The shields flared under the impact, but they held. Alex's quick orders guided the palace defenses with precision. Lyra watched him move, assessing the enemy, calculating the best response and giving clear commands. He was like a rock in the storm, steady and unshakable. Lyra realized that humans had a kind of courage that was different from her people. Her people relied on tradition and rules. Humans relied on thought, instinct, and quick decision-making. They could act calmly even when everything was uncertain. That was strength. That was bravery, and Alex had it in abundance. One of the ships moved closer to the palace walls. The guards raised their weapons, but Alex spoke quietly and firmly. "Wait. Do not engage unless necessary. They are testing us, not attacking yet. Stay calm and observe." Lyra watched the ship carefully. She could feel the tension in the air, but she forced herself to breathe evenly. Alex's calmness was contagious. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. The ship fired a smaller blast toward the garden. Lyra felt a shockwave through the floor, but the shields held. Alex moved to her side. "Stay low," he said. "Do not panic. Follow my lead." She nodded, her heart racing. She had never felt so alive, so aware of every movement, every sound, every shadow. The danger was real, and yet Alex's presence made her feel a strange sense of control. She realized that humans could face fear without being consumed by it. That was something she had not fully understood before. The enemy ships tested the palace defenses for several minutes. Each time, Alex observed, calculated, and gave quiet instructions. Lyra watched him, learning, absorbing, and respecting his courage. She realized that humans were not just strong physically, but mentally and emotionally. They could stay calm, think clearly, and act decisively in ways her people often could not. Finally, the enemy ships retreated. Lyra felt a wave of relief, but she forced herself to remain composed. Alex turned to her, his expression calm but serious. "They will return if they see an opportunity," he said. "We must be ready." Lyra nodded slowly. "You were remarkable," she said softly. "I have never seen anyone remain so calm under pressure." Alex shook his head slightly. "I am not fearless," he said. "I simply do not let fear control me. That is what humans learn. That is what I have trained for." Lyra felt a strange admiration for him, a mix of respect and fascination. She realized that courage was not just about fighting, but about control, thought, and honesty. Alex had shown her a side of humanity she had never truly understood. As the palace settled back into quiet, Lyra walked through the hall with Alex. Her mind was racing, but her voice was steady. "You have taught me much today," she said. "Not just about humans, but about courage and composure. I see now that strength comes in many forms." Alex smiled faintly. "We all learn from each other, Princess. That is the way to grow stronger." Lyra felt a spark of hope. She realized that humans and her people could truly understand and respect each other. And she realized something else. Alex had changed the way she saw courage, strength, and even herself. For the first time, she felt that meeting a human soldier could lead to more than diplomacy. It could lead to understanding, trust, and perhaps even friendship. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing clearly. She had seen real courage today, and it had left a mark on her heart and mind. After the danger had passed, the palace returned to its usual quiet rhythm, though the tension lingered in the air. Lyra walked slowly through the grand hall, her mind heavy with thoughts. The attack had been small but precise, and it had shaken the city just enough to remind her that the universe was not safe. Yet, despite the danger, she felt a strange calm when she thought of Alex. He had been steady, brave, and precise during the attack. His calmness had guided her own composure, and she could not deny the admiration growing inside her. She made her way to the private garden courtyard. The soft light of late afternoon spilled over the fountains and flowering plants. The sound of water was soothing, and for a moment she allowed herself to breathe deeply. Her attendants had been sent to manage the aftermath of the attack, leaving her alone to think. She needed a moment to process everything that had happened. The soft hiss of the shuttle landing engines reached her ears. She knew it was Alex returning for another meeting. She felt a slight flutter in her chest, a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. He stepped out of the shuttle with the same calm confidence she had come to recognize. His expression was steady, but she noticed a subtle tension in his shoulders. He too had been affected by the attack, though he did not show it openly. "Princess Lyra," he said, bowing his head slightly, "are you well after the morning's events?" "I am well," she replied, her voice steady. She gestured toward the courtyard. "Please come, we can speak here, it is calmer." Alex nodded and followed her. He moved with care, observing the surroundings, noting the plants and the fountains, yet never slowing his attention from the princess. She walked beside him, her robes brushing softly against the stone paths, keeping her posture perfect, her face composed. Yet inside she felt a storm of emotions, curiosity, respect, and a strange admiration she could not fully name. They reached a shaded bench beneath a wide tree. Lyra gestured for Alex to sit, and he did so, keeping his movements smooth and deliberate. She sat across from him, maintaining her regal composure, but her eyes never left his face. There was something about him that drew her attention, his calmness, his honesty, and the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from him. "I wanted to speak with you alone," Lyra began, her voice soft but steady. "The attack today, it reminded me of the dangers my people face. It reminded me that even in our strongest cities, we are not invincible." Alex nodded slowly. "It was a test, Princess. A small one, but a test nonetheless. It shows that even in peace, vigilance is necessary." Lyra studied his face. "You were remarkable during the attack," she said. "You remained calm, precise, and brave. I have never seen anyone handle a situation like that so well." Alex's expression remained calm, but a faint smile appeared. "I am not fearless," he said quietly. "I feel fear, but I have learned not to let it control me. That is what humans train for. That is what we teach each other. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite it." Lyra felt a wave of admiration. She had always understood courage as strength, power, and control, but Alex's words opened a new perspective. Courage could also be patience, thoughtfulness, and the quiet strength to remain calm. She realized that humans had a depth of bravery her people had only spoken of in legends. "I think I understand," she said slowly. "Your bravery is not loud or reckless. It is measured." "Thoughtful, honest," Alex nodded. "Exactly. Strength without thought is dangerous. Strength guided by courage, respect, and understanding, that is true power." Lyra looked away for a moment, gazing at the fountain where water trickled softly over the carved stones. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Meeting Alex had changed her view of humans. She had always thought them unpredictable, reckless, and emotional. But standing here with him, she saw a different side. A side she respected, admired, and wanted to understand better. "Tell me more about your home," she said, her voice steady, though her curiosity was palpable. "About your family, your world, your people." Alex leaned back slightly, his gaze thoughtful. "I come from a planet called Earth," he began. "It is full of challenges, beauty, and diversity. Families there are very important. We learn to care for each other, to fight for each other, to protect what matters. People are brave not because they want to be heroes, but because they want to keep the ones they love safe." Lyra listened carefully. She could hear the honesty in his voice, the way he spoke without exaggeration or pride. Humans, she realized, valued life and connection. They fought not for glory but for trust, loyalty, and love. That was a kind of courage she had never fully appreciated before. "And your training?" she asked softly. "How do you learn to stay calm in situations like today?" Alex smiled faintly. "It is not easy," he admitted. "We learn through experience, mistakes, and guidance from others. We train our minds and bodies. We learn to trust ourselves and our team. And we learn to accept fear, not fight it. Courage comes from accepting fear and acting despite it." Lyra nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She realized that humans face challenges in ways her people did not. They did not rely solely on tradition, rules, or authority. They relied on each other, on trust, and on careful thought. They combined thought, courage, and honesty in ways that created strength far beyond physical power. "I see," she said softly. "It is different from my people. We value strength, discipline, and obedience. But humans, you have something more. Something that combines strength with heart." Alex looked at her steadily. "Yes, strength with heart. That is what makes us endure. That is what allows us to face challenges without losing ourselves. Lyra felt a quiet admiration rise within her. She realized that humans could teach her people lessons about courage, trust, and honesty. She realized that Alex was not just a soldier. He was an example of the best qualities of his people. And she could not deny the growing respect she felt for him, nor the curiosity to know him better. For a long moment, they sat in silence, watching the fountains and the gentle movement of the courtyard. Lyra felt her thoughts settling, yet she also felt a new awareness. The world was bigger than her palace, bigger than her people. Humans were part of that world, and Alex had shown her a side of them she had never imagined. "I have one question," she said finally, her voice quiet but firm. "Why do humans care so deeply for others, even strangers? Even people you do not know?" Alex's eyes met hers. "Because we understand that every life matters. Because we know that trust, loyalty, and kindness create strength. And because we have learned that fear and danger are everywhere, but courage and connection make the difference. We fight to protect, to build, and to survive together. That is why we care." Lyra nodded slowly. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Humans were more than warriors. They were thinkers, lovers, protectors, and friends. They had courage of body and heart. And she realized that meeting Alex had shown her a new way to see the universe, not just as a princess defending her people, but as someone who could learn, trust, and understand another species. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the courtyard. Lyra stood and looked at Alex. "Thank you," she said softly, "for showing me this, for helping me see beyond what I expected, for being patient with me." Alex stood as well, his expression calm but sincere. "The honor is mine, Princess. You are wise, thoughtful, and brave in ways that are rare. Meeting you has taught me much about your people and about strength of heart." Lyra felt a spark of connection, a quiet understanding that went beyond words. She realized that humans and her people could learn from each other, could trust each other, and could perhaps build something stronger than fear or conflict. And she realized something else. Alex had changed the way she saw herself. She was still a princess. She still had duties, responsibilities, and expectations, but she also had the ability to trust, to respect, and to admire someone from another world. "Perhaps," she said softly, "we can learn from each other, humans and my people together." Alex nodded. "I hope so, Princess. I truly hope so." They stood quietly for a moment, watching the fountains and listening to the soft sounds of the palace. The attack earlier in the day had reminded them both of danger, but it had also shown them courage, trust, and understanding. Lyra felt a small spark of hope. The universe was dangerous, yes, but it was also full of possibilities. Possibilities for connection, respect, and learning. As Alex prepared to leave, Lyra felt a strange mixture of emotions: gratitude, curiosity, respect, and something she did not fully name. She knew that meeting him had changed her, even if subtly. She had learned about courage, about composure, and about the quiet strength humans carried. And she knew that this encounter was only the beginning of a larger journey, one of understanding, trust, and perhaps even friendship between their peoples. "Until next time," she said softly, her voice steady but warm. "Until next time," Alex replied, bowing his head slightly before stepping back toward his shuttle. Lyra watched him go, her mind and heart full. She had stayed composed as a princess must. But inside she felt something new, a quiet fascination, a deep respect, and a spark of hope. She knew that humans were more than she had imagined. And she knew that meeting Alex had changed the way she would face the world, her people, and perhaps even herself. The palace woke to a quiet morning, but Lyra felt a strange energy in the air. She had spent the last days reflecting on the meetings with Alex, the human soldier. His calmness, courage, and honesty had left a mark on her. She had learned about humans in a way that no report or story could teach her. Now, she faced the day knowing that the universe could bring dangers, but also new possibilities. The landing platform hummed softly as the shuttle arrived. Alex stepped out with his usual calm demeanor, but today there was a purpose in his walk, a focus that Lyra noticed immediately. He moved toward her without hesitation, his eyes steady, scanning the surroundings for any threats. The palace guards followed silently, trusting both Lyra and Alex to guide them. "Good morning, Princess Lyra," Alex said, bowing slightly. "I hope the city is ready for the day." "Good morning, Alex," she replied, keeping her voice steady though a small smile tugged at her lips. "We are always ready, but I have a feeling today will be different." Alex nodded. "I have seen signs that there may be trouble approaching. We should be prepared." Lyra followed him into the observation chamber. From the windows, the city looked calm, peaceful, and almost untouched by the dangers of the past days. But in the distance, dark shapes appeared, moving swiftly across the sky. Unknown ships, larger and faster than the previous ones, were heading straight for the palace. Lyra's heart tightened, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had learned from Alex how to steady her thoughts, to assess without panicking, and to act with courage. "The enemy is larger this time," Alex said quietly. "We need to protect the palace and the people inside. Follow my instructions and stay close." Lyra nodded. She had practiced composure and courage, but now it was time to put it into action. The palace alarm sounded, echoing through the halls and streets. Guards moved quickly into position, but Alex's presence gave Lyra a strange confidence. She felt that as long as he was here, she could stay calm, think clearly, and guide her people. The first ships fired, sending energy blasts toward the palace walls. Shields flared under the impact, shaking the floors slightly, but they held. Lyra's hands gripped the edge of the observation panel, but her breathing remained even. She had learned to control her fear. She had learned that courage was acting despite the danger. Alex moved among the guards, giving quick instructions, his voice calm but firm. "Focus on the shields. Do not waste energy on unnecessary attacks. Watch their patterns." His eyes scanned the sky, noting every movement, every angle, every threat. Lyra watched him closely, amazed by his ability to remain composed and precise. The enemy ships adjusted, firing more aggressively, but Alex was ready. He directed the guards to strengthen specific areas of the shield, to focus fire on ships that moved too close, and to protect critical points in the palace. His strategy was simple, effective, and thoughtful. Lyra realized that humans did not rely solely on power. They relied on understanding, observation, and planning. "Princess Lyra," Alex said quietly, stepping to her side, "you must stay behind the shields. Trust the defenses and trust the guards. We will protect you." She nodded, a small smile touching her lips. "I do trust you, Alex," she said. "Your courage, your calmness, it gives me strength." The attack continued for several minutes. Lyra watched as Alex moved swiftly, giving orders, protecting the people around him, and staying aware of every detail. His bravery was not reckless. It was controlled, precise, and focused. He faced danger not because he lacked fear, but because he had learned to act despite it. At one point, a ship broke through a shield and moved toward the palace's main hall. Lyra's chest tightened, but Alex was already in motion. He led a group of guards to intercept it, moving with quiet authority. Lyra followed, staying close but careful to maintain her composure. She noticed the way Alex's calm presence steadied the guards around him, making them act with precision and courage. The ship fired again, but Alex gave clear, simple instructions. The guards responded immediately, using shields and countermeasures. The enemy ship faltered, unable to breach the defenses. Lyra felt a surge of respect and awe. Humans, she realized, were not only physically brave but mentally and emotionally strong. They could face chaos and danger without losing themselves. After several tense minutes, the enemy ships began to retreat. Lyra exhaled quietly, but she did not relax completely. She knew they could return at any time. Yet she also felt a deep admiration for Alex. He had not only protected her and her palace, but he had also shown her the true meaning of courage. Not the loud, aggressive courage she had expected, but a calm, thoughtful, and honest bravery that inspired trust and respect. Princess Lyra, Alex said, turning to her, the immediate danger has passed, but we must remain vigilant. The enemy will not give up easily. Lyra nodded. I understand, she said, and I also understand something else now. Humans, you are different from what I imagined. You are not reckless or loud. You are careful, brave, and honest. You teach others courage by example. Alex smiled faintly. Thank you, Princess. That means a lot. But you also teach me. Your people have wisdom, discipline, and strength. Together, we can protect each other and learn from one another. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to feel something beyond respect, hope. Hope that humans and her people could work together, could trust each other, and could face dangers side by side. She realized that meeting Alex had shown her more than courage. It had shown her the possibility of connection, understanding, and friendship between their worlds. They walked together through the palace, inspecting minor damages from the attack. Lyra observed Alex quietly, noting the way he stayed aware of every detail while remaining calm. She realized that humans could inspire trust not through words alone, but through action. Alex's bravery had not only protected the palace, but had also taught her something profound about courage, responsibility, and connection. As the day ended, Lyra and Alex stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The palace was intact, the people safe, and the danger had passed for now. Lyra felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that she had stayed composed, guided by the example of the human soldier. Thank you, Alex, she said softly, for everything today. For your courage, your guidance, and your honesty. You have taught me much, not just about humans, but about strength and trust. Alex bowed slightly. The honor is mine, Princess. Meeting you has taught me about your people, your wisdom, and your courage. Together, I believe we can create something stronger than fear or conflict. Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in her chest. She realized that humans and her people could not only survive together, but could also build understanding, respect, and perhaps even friendship. She realized that courage was not only about action, but also about honesty, thoughtfulness, and the ability to inspire trust. As Alex prepared to leave for the shuttle, Lyra walked beside him. I hope this is not our last meeting, she said softly. It will not be, he replied calmly. There is much we can learn from each other, and I want to continue learning, Princess, about your people, your world, and about you. Lyra's heart felt a small flutter, but she kept her composure. Then we shall meet again, she said. And perhaps one day, humans and my people will face the universe together, as equals and friends. Alex nodded. I look forward to that day, Princess Lyra. He stepped onto the shuttle and waved briefly. Lyra watched as the shuttle lifted off and disappeared into the sky. She turned back toward the palace, feeling a sense of calm and hope. The attack had reminded her of the dangers that existed in the universe, but it had also shown her the possibilities. Courage, honesty, respect, and trust could build bonds stronger than fear or conflict. For the first time, Lyra felt that the future was full of possibilities. She had met a human soldier, a stranger who had become a teacher, protector, and inspiration. She had stayed composed, guided by her training and by his example. But she had also learned to see humans differently, not as unpredictable or reckless, but as brave, thoughtful, and capable of friendship. As the night fell and the palace lights glowed softly, Lyra sat quietly in her chambers. She reflected on the events of the day and the past few days. She realized that meeting Alex had changed her perspective forever. She had learned about courage, trust, and understanding. She had seen a human's heart and strength. And she had felt a spark of connection that went beyond diplomacy or duty. She smiled quietly, knowing that this was only the beginning. Humans and her people could face dangers together, learn from each other, and perhaps build a future filled with trust and friendship. And Alex, the calm and courageous soldier, had shown her that courage was not only about strength or power, but about honesty, patience, and the quiet strength to face fear and danger with thoughtfulness and care. For Princess Lyra, the universe had become a little larger, a little brighter, and a little more hopeful. And she knew that the meetings with Alex were just the first step in a journey that could change everything. For her, her people, and the humans who had proven that courage came in many forms. As she looked out over the city one last time that night, she whispered softly to herself, "The future will be stronger together." And with that, Princess Lyra felt a quiet peace settle over her. The danger had passed, courage had been proven, and a new bond had begun. A bond between humans and her people, guided by trust, respect, and the quiet bravery of one human soldier named Alex.